To do Yerma now in this time, in these special times of war, of problematic situations, of insecurity, people feel a lot of insecurity, of tensions between people, between things, between the world. Yerma is really the piece that we have to do now. It was not forgotten, it is never forgotten. In Stockholm it's a long time ago. The last time it was in the 80s, really big, it was in the 60s. But it's coming back all over the world again. Amsterdam, London, and also Stockholm. Why now? So because it is a piece, it is a poetical tragedy, in fact you could say a tragic poem about who we try to be and who we are hiding to be, and what we have to conquer in this world. As gender, in gender problematics, in being a family, being people amongst each other, being on the world, in the world. So I think Yerma is really is telling a lot of our world, of our landscape, the emotional landscape, the psychological landscape, but also the political and personal landscape we are living in. For us here now, one of the most important themes of Yerma is how to be related with the world, not only with each other, also with nature, with each other, with the things that surround us, with insecurity. So relatedness and loneliness. People in this piece, Yerma, but also her husband, Juan. We also bring in Lorca as an author of the piece, but of course as an audience we are all authors. They are really trying to find a relation with each other, with the world that surrounds them. From a deep loneliness within, but also from a deep urge to relate. Yes, in this play, how we do it now, we bring Lorca on stage. He is visible. He's really very visible. Lorca, of course, as a poet and a writer, he was very special in these times in Spain, but not only in Spain, he traveled a lot. He was like a wanderer looking for worlds to connect with. We bring him on stage because as a person and as a writer of the piece, as a writer of the poem in fact, he is looking to the figures he made, as we are looking always to the figures and our surroundings. He is looking to his creations, but at the same time, and therefore it's important to bring him on stage, we can also see how he is relating to the persons he is creating and doubting also, and having fear. As we will know, and as we will get to know in the piece, he is murdered by very traditional conservative politics in Spain at that day, and he was like an outsider in this society. So as an outsider in a society of Spain of that time, we bring him also nowadays on our stage to look what it is, how the outsider is writing, how the outsider is feared, how we are trying to connect with him, because of course when he is a writer we also have, or every figure on scene has a connection with his writer because they are his creations. So this is a beautiful tension that we also give to the audience, to not to make a choice, but to feel like how every individual on this scene is also a part of yourself. The very important thing of Lorca in his time was he was homosexual. He was not traditional. He had a lot of critique on the society, on the conservative society, how it was evolving, how the nation was forming itself, and really wanted to be people like as creations of the nation. So as a writer he said, I will create my creations. But as a gay, homosexual person, individual, he had also a lot of tensions within himself, like every sexual being has intention within himself or herself or themselves, but also there were a lot of tensions with his choice of his sexuality. In fact, you could say the state came into his bed, and the state is also coming into our bed always. So this tension and this way of looking to Lorca in his society, we bring in how do we look to a writer now, and how are the conservative tensions in our society now, how society wants us to make a family or behave in a certain way to each other. How is the gaze of the state coming into our streets in violence against homosexuals, for instance, or violence against non-conformist families, or violence within the families itself. So it is also really how the state is lying into our beds. And this is a figure, therefore the figure of Lorca is really very important. Not that we take, this I also want to say, not that we say like, that we make an ascension of these sexual choices, but it's the fluidity of the possibility to have this choice that we bring in. So I work with Lisaboa since a long time, and sometimes it's called dramaturgy, or sometimes it's called philosophical advice, but it's not an advice, it's not a dramaturgy as such. What I like is to make like a dramaturgy of the banality, or the ordinary things that are inside and surrounding us, and bringing this together in a landscape. And this is how Lisaboa is always working. I work with her since she was a student, that I know her. And it is thinking and working with repertoire, with very deep, in the world, embedded stories, narratives, not only European narratives, because in good narratives things come together, and so this very old, very deep stories that stay alive during centuries, like it can be the Greek, but it can be also 20th century stories, like Lorca or Brecht, or Lisaboa works a lot with paintings. So we can also, and this is for every one of us, for everyone in the audience, you see a painting, but you don't have to understand totally Bruegel. He's talking to you. So we want pieces that are talking to each other and talking to the audience. And this is in making indeed a landscape with light, with a very good light designer, but also with Lorca called his theatre piece a poem in different scenes. So how can we make a poem of today that is resonating with us today? And then we also have the layers of music. It's a kind of geography. It's an atlas of, but like an atlas, not like a traditional one, but that shows all the landscapes that in our society and in this piece and in ourselves and in the words also. So the landscape is made also of the music that is composed especially for this piece. And so in her way of working, it's not saying to or directing to people, you have to do this, but it comes really from within, and it's starting to have a breath. So it's looking to a breath of everyone who is on scene, who is working. She has a lot of talks and thinking together. So it's a piece about relatedness, but it's also a working process of how do we make togetherness in everything that's surrounding us.